We're always told the big teams find a way to win and rave about them. This time it was England. Some people think this has been the best World Cup for decades. I keep telling them how wrong they are. Martin Samuel has been informing us of the awful homophobia, racism, poor stadiums, fan fighting, the danger for supporters and of course the dreadful idea of FIFA holding this tournament in Russia. These people who think this is exciting and fabulous must be idiots, eh Mart? Ivor Point, England. Oh, Ivor, we all know who the idiot is. It's the person who talks about the best World Cup in decades when the competition is less than a week old. And I have never speculated about poor stadiums or danger for supporters. The infrastructure was always going to be good because money would be no object, and I didn't see violence as a problem because President Putin is not going to allow that in his backyard when he is trying to show his best side to the world. Racism, well, yes, Russia has that and every official report confirms it. Homophobia, too. And I do think it is a poor idea for FIFA, or any major sporting body, to indirectly endorse a regime that has indulged in systemic state-sponsored drug cheating on an industrial scale, and has corrupted at least 2 Olympic Games. Evgenia Peshurina, a discus thrower and whistle-blower, estimated 99% of Russia athletes were in the doping program. But that doesn't mean they can't organize a tournament, just that they shouldn't have got one. I was in France in 2016 when every time you needed to fly south, the pilots went on strike. That was never going to happen here. And it's the best signage of any major tournament I have attended. All the media stuff, accreditation center, press tribune, mixed zone, is in orange. So you arrive and look for the orange signs. So simple, so logical. The Bolsheviks knew about branding and image before the concept had even been popularly considered. Why do you think graphic designers still study Soviet iconography? So it's been good, and I'm enjoying it, because I like tournaments in single countries, but let's not kid ourselves. Major sporting events show a nation at its best. England, and London, was a completely different place in 2012 than it is now. The carnival has left town. South Africa was crime-free for a month in 2010, favelas in Brazil suddenly got clean water in 2014. A look at all of those countries reveals marked change once the circus left town, and not for the better. So, yes, Russia 2018 is going very well. But you'd have to be a little thick to think this mood is permanent, or that reports of racism, and the recent FIFA fine for the booing of black players when Russia played France, were all based on lies. Anyway, we'll be debating England's start for the rest of this column, but first, to get us in the mood, and as a grateful nod to our most welcoming hosts, here's my absolute favorite Marxist. I know a win is a win, but England's performance was lackluster. I'm not a hater, I'm a supporter, and wish the team well. But I am frustrated at the potential that is within the squad not being realized. Obsidian onslaught, Belfast. There was quite a lot of this after Tunisia, so I've got to say here and now that I disagree. I think many players are realizing their potential under Gareth Southgate. In the first match, Jordan Henderson, Harry Kane and Kieran Trippier, to name 3. We're a young team, inexperienced. The starting 11 hadn't played together before and all that was missing was the finishing. The rest, I thought, went well bar the odd defensive error, which will happen when picking a back 3 for their football, as much as their resilience. Harry Kane was the laziest player on the pitch, giving no help to Raheem Sterling whatsoever. Henderson was useless and fed one ball through to the attack. Dele Alli was more than useless, as was Ashley Young, who got one ball across to an England player and that from a corner. Yet it's all Sterling's fault. Curious mind, Christchurch. No, it wasn't all Sterling's fault, but it certainly wasn't the fault of the 4 other players you mentioned, who were all among England's best performers. As a Liverpool fan, I am very pleased to say Henderson was the best player on the pitch. No mistakes, good passing, and in the right spaces. Dijvd, Prague. I agree. I made Henderson England's man of the match. As a Chelsea fan, I have to admit, through gritted teeth, that Trippier was by far the best player on the pitch. Gate 13, Hereford. He had a very good game. I've been advocating him in that position for England for a while now. Even if Kyle Walker was removed from a central defensive role, I wouldn't restore him to right wing back ahead of Trippier. With his first-time crosses and use of the dead ball, he has made the position his own. The problem with Walker is not simply that he is being played as a centre-back. Any Tottenham fan will tell you that he was always defensively suspect even when played as a full-back. He was prone to lapses in concentration, especially in terms of positional awareness, relying on his speed and strength to allow him to recover from errors of judgment and technique. Although he did improve under Mauricio Pochettino, he remained an athletic player rather than an intelligent or skillful one. It is too late for him to eliminate these shortcomings now, but perhaps they would be less exposed if he were confined to sprinting up and down the right touchline rather than getting lost in the central defensive areas. Moving him now, however, would disrupt the team considerably. Moose Brugger, Chichester. I think that's all fair comment, Moose. I was never the greatest fan of Walker's for England, although I do feel he has improved defensively of late. Giving away the penalty was poor, although the fall was exaggerated, but I don't see too many better options for England right now. I think Trippier is a better crosser of the ball, so I wouldn't switch. That leaves right centre-half as Walker's only position, the way this team is set up. Nothing more I love in life than seeing an England team lose, in any sport. I bet the press and fans are touting them to win the World Cup now. Skinner 87, Cape Town. Hardly. All of this arrogant England stuff is really the most tired old twaddle. I remember my first rugby test in the Southern Hemisphere, against New Zealand in 2003. England had the best team in the world at that time, and regularly defeated the All Blacks, but the locals were still convinced they were going to win. I couldn't believe the arrogance. The veterans in the press corps on that tour told me, wait until you get to South Africa. I trust you haven't disappointed them by remaining dignified and modest these last 2 weeks. Of course not. When Englishmen were men they used to shake hands after scoring a goal. That absurd pile of bodies after Kane scored made them look ridiculous before the eyes of the world. Sir Alf Ramsey would have been appalled. They just scraped a win against a tiny country,